Hello,
And welcome to our podcast, Wine with
Shelley.
and Shelley.
We are two women passionate about supporting those affected by cancer. Our businesses are dedicated to providing resources and community for people navigating this challenging journey.
Whether you're a cancer survivor, caregiver, or just looking for information, we've got you covered.
On this podcast, we'll be diving into a wide range of topics, from the latest research and treatments to practical tips for coping with the emotional and physical challenges of cancer.
We'll also be sharing inspiring stories, interviewing experts, and exploring the latest trends in cancer care.
Join us as we navigate this journey together.
Let's get started. Oh, welcome back to Wine with Shelley and Shelley.
Welcome back, everyone.
This is going to be an interesting episode. Please bear with us. We need to give Shelley just a minute.
Give me just a minute, people. I just got in a fight with a Mack truck on the way here.
Can I tell you that I just looked at my phone, which does not work very well. And a message popped up that said I got sideswiped by a dump truck. And I had to look at it a few times. Sideswiped by a dump truck. And she's still coming to record this podcast.
Listen, we're all God's vessels and we're supposed to speak on his behalf, whatever that may look like. I have to be honest with you. I have another viewpoint on the whole Jesus take a wheel thing. I have no idea how I got across, because I was on the Beltline. If anybody knows the Beltline and the traffic there, it was a 12 and 18 in Madison. And I think the wind hit that Mack truck, and I didn't expect that. Nobody sees a Mack truck having a party with your little tiny Camry, but I think I won. And so somehow I think I literally said, Jesus, take the wheel, because I had no idea how I got across to the right side of the median to pull over and breathe a little bit and then get my bearings to call the 911 and just say, hey, guess what? I had a little bit of an incident here, and here I am. I said, listen, I got stuff to do. We got people to talk to. We have a really great interview today with some really positive outlooks. So why wouldn't we make it here?
Holy cow. There you have it, folks. All I can say is I'm very thankful. Whew. Thankful. God is good.
I stopped and told people at Quick Trip that when I told them what happened, they said, what? And I pulled off and I showed them the I could smell rubber, mostly because it's all on the side of my car. And I said, if you ever need a reminder, God is good. And they all said, yes, he is. So I said, well, good thing they agreed with me.
Well, listen, we know you have a purpose. That just reinforces the fact that you have a definite purpose here. And we have a lot to do. So can you please, no more run-ins with Mack trucks.
I'll try not to. Try not to.
All right. Well, how about, without further ado, we should introduce our guest.
Yes. We have Miss Deb, and she had a run-in with something similar to a Mack truck, if you put it into an analogy, right?
Right.
I would say cancer and a Mack truck are very similar.
Pretty much. I would agree. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Deb, and your run-in with a Mack truck.
Okay. First, again, my name is Deb, and I have 2 children, and I'm married, and I was very good at following all the requirements and recommendations for health screening. And at my 50-year-old appointment for my first colonoscopy, they found something. So that was where that Mack truck came in.
Wow. And by the way, she has pretty awesome neighbors, in case anybody wants to know. I do. I heard you say have some pretty great neighbors. They might be my parents. But anywho.
They are great.
You at 50 years old, you're following the rules, you're doing all the recommendations, and kerpow.
It was pretty much a kerpow. However, there were some symptoms prior that I had addressed with some medical professionals, and was almost told that, here, try this, but they never really went away, and the symptoms never really went away. So I guess there was a Mack truck there too. I should have maybe followed my gut a little bit more, but in the end, there were symptoms prior to a diagnosis. So.
Okay.
Don't beat yourself up about that, because that's a very difficult thing to do. And I just want to say to our audience that, you know your body best. You know how it feels. Unfortunately, especially because of insurance regulations and all of the hoops that physicians have to go through, they're not always able to order the tests and do what needs to be done on your behalf. And then, there's also the vague kind of symptoms that is easy to brush off and say, oh, especially a female 50 years old, and, so now it's, menopause and postmenopausal, and maybe it's this or that. And so I think you make a good point, though. It is very, very important that if you feel something, if it's not right, to continue to pursue until you get someone that's willing to listen to you.
Right, right. And I don't think it's, it's part of your journey. But that experience probably has happened to many where they've gone in and maybe it's something simple that can be a quick fix, and other times it's not. In your case, it wasn't necessarily a quick fix. Would you share some of the symptoms you might have been experiencing that you had shared to maybe somebody out there that maybe is either experiencing it and would go, oh my goodness, maybe I should look into this further?
Sure. I had colorectal cancer, and some part of the symptoms are blood in your stool. Primarily, I was told it's pretty much hemorrhoids.
Right.
And so go in a bath, and, but it just never went away. And so I guess that was I knew and knew something was wrong, or it just wasn't getting better. So then I just went through, like I said, the 50-year-old, I was able to get the colonoscopy, and I just went that route.
Okay.
And that's where they found a small tumor.
Wow. Wow. And many women, especially seeing as you had 2 kids, hemorrhoids are pretty much something that, we can kind of expect, and then we kind of poo-poo it, especially females, because we're busy and we got things to do. So, it's like, oh, I'm sure it's just this. And then you keep on your merry way. And then we always I just think women take on the world. That's what I think we do.
I agree.
And I know you do. You have a busy job, busy life with kids. The husband runs, our husbands are running around, that kind of thing. So it'd be easy to maybe bypass that in a lot of ways, really, because why would you think it's a hemorrhoid or what have you? So about how long do you think you had symptoms from,
I'm going to say probably a good year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and that's mostly what I remember.
Sure.
I think it was about a year, and I had seen a doctor, so it wasn't like I was just ignoring it.
Right.
So.
Right. You were doing the thing, like you said, you followed the rules. It's just a matter of how did that happen? How did it occur? And then what level of upping the ante did we go with the doctor at the time that it was needed? So any thoughts on that at all, Michelle? Because have you ever seen or heard of anybody who maybe didn't get a quicker diagnosis that you can think of offhand?
Yes. Matter of fact, I had something just happen recently. So I had a patient who had experienced some pain, in particular, some rib pain. Their situation was a little bit different because they have a type of cancer that is never cured. It can be kept at bay. But they had been mentioning this odd kind of rib pain. And because they are older, they're another decade older, it's kind of like, well, it's part of the aging process. And wasn't thinking anything about cancer. So unfortunately for that person as well, it turned out to be a new lesion. And, they just felt like they knew about it quite a bit earlier than it was actually diagnosed. So again, I just encourage everyone to continue pursuing when you have symptoms, if they are not going away and you're not getting answers or you don't feel like you're being heard, to keep trying your best to find that next specialist or holistic physician or nurse practitioner or someone who's willing to dive in and investigate further, because too often it's not the first, what should I say, it's like a young person being diagnosed with cancer. They say, oh, they're too young for this or that. It's not always the first thing that comes to a physician's mind. And yet it often turns out to be something more serious that does need attention.
Sure, because 50 is young, so it wouldn't be the first thing anybody's going to think about. And I'm sure, speaking of, you had said you kind of knew. Do you feel like maybe during that time you had this a little bit of a tap on the shoulder, like, hey, girl?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't getting better. And
Right.
I'm like, really? That's all I have to do is sit in a bathtub? Or I'm like, it just wasn't getting better. So
Sure.
Yeah, I was worried.
About how many times do you think you went to the doctor for that specific type of thing?
I remember going one time, and then I also called.
Okay. Okay. So kind of called and followed up and said, hey, I need further advice kind of thing. Okay. And then,
Yeah, so I just want to make it very clear that I am not saying anything negative about physicians. Schedules are very busy. They have a lot on their plate these days, especially in dealing with insurance companies. And a lot of times their hands are so tied as to what they can do. And the way that our health system is set up, everyone has to be referred to a specialist. So every appointment goes through the primary care doctor and is a referral.
right.
So it's really not efficient, which is another reason why we need healthcare reform.
What they told me is that this was the way it would cure it. Hopefully. This was the best way it would cure the cancer, was being this aggressive radical treatment. So that's what I was living for my kids. So that's the way I went.
And it's interesting. I think that's a good focus is like, what did you focus on? So you weren't focused on, your mindset was key. Because most people don't look at it and have that viewpoint. Like, I know that my mom had shared like what a good positive outlook you had the whole time. And I think that's key in many people getting through those experiences. And so like for me, it's kind of, how can we share how your mindset was, so somebody that's like facing this, because we often have this immediate fear to cancer, instead of like, you're like, I've got to do this for my kids. You're just a badass in general.
No, I just wasn't going to let it get me,
Yeah, but it's interesting. How does one have that kind of mentality versus somebody who doesn't? And do you think there was faith involved? Was there?
Absolutely.
What do you think kind of carried you through?
Well, for sure, faith. I mean, I'm nowhere without that.
So it's already a good key.
Yeah, we're talking about that.
Okay. Does lead into a lot of faith in general. I think that would be a good space to hit, because I think sometimes, especially with the trials that the world is heading into these days, I definitely feel like faith is being lost. And when you can delve into faith, it gives you at least a whole nother relief. Like you're not carrying the burden by yourself. You are there. You have this package, but you have somebody that's helping lift that with you. And it's pretty powerful.
Absolutely.
Pretty powerful. I think that's a good
Okay.
way. Did
you ready?
Get all that?
That's
Perfect.
what
See,
we
half the
do.
time we get stuff like that, and we're like, yes.
He works magic.
I know.
Yeah.
He's magical unicorn over there. Good.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
So that's the thing is we love to hear people's stories simply because you did go into it with this knowing and gnawing of something's not right. You went and checked in. You kind of held out a little bit, and then you said, you know what, I'm going to follow up because it's just not improving. But then you get this diagnosis, and you got 2 kids. You got a husband. Do you know what your first thought was when you first heard you have cancer? Do you recall
Of
what you
course.
might have been feeling or
Yeah.
thinking at that time?
It's, I mean, everybody's worst fear.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess my first thought was, okay, well, what are we going to do to conquer this?
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do to get it taken care of?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just, okay, what's the next step?
Mm-hmm.
How did you find out what your diagnosis was? And were you alone at that time? Was somebody with you?
I found out after the colonoscopy, and my husband was with me. I think, then they had to do some pathology. And so then I found out, I think the doctor pretty much probably knew when
Mm-hmm.
they did the colonoscopy that it was cancerous, probably. So a little bit that day, and then the confirmation later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is true. A lot of times when they are doing colonoscopies or EGDs, I did work in that department and did those procedures. And physiologically, you can identify a lot of times just by seeing with a scope. And those doctors have been there, done that. They've been working with this stuff for many years most of the time. And so usually they do have that information on hand, but then they do need to confirm it by pathology, which is a good way to not just assume, but a lot of times by seeing it, you can tell the difference between just your typical polyp versus a cancerous tumor
Right.
of sorts. So you probably were loopy after that anyway. So I'm sure that probably helps ease getting that information a little bit, because you're just like, woo, I just got the silly medicine for a colonoscopy. So not quite with the program when you woke up, I'm sure.
Right. But going back, I did kind of have that tap on the shoulder, and that, I guess I wasn't surprised.
Sure.
Mhm.
So you already probably went into it going, okay, I'm going to get this information, and then I'm going to do what I got to do to get this stuff out and take care of business. After finding out with your husband, what was your guys' actions with kids? Because there's a lot of people out there that get this information and then they have to sit down and go, okay, we got to sit down with our children and tell them. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, we talked about, whether to share that with them. Interestingly, this was right when COVID was starting. So there was a lot going on with them, and in, school-wise, we thought that we could remove the tumor, and I did have it removed. And the first time it came back that there wasn't any cancer in the area that they removed it. So we thought we were kind of clean and free. And then I subsequently went back to the doctor for a follow-up, and she had me do an MRI and some other tests. And then they found that it had moved to a couple lymph nodes. So that changed the track. And so after a lot of tests and stuff, that is what's really hard about a cancer diagnosis too, is I think you want it gone right away. And there's so many, do this and wait, and do this and wait. And so that process took probably all summer. And again, this is through COVID. I did not share it with my children until I had a plan of action and knew what was going to have to happen. So it wasn't until probably right at school time that I told them, because I wanted to make them feel like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And it's,
Sure.
It's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how long, what was the time frame that passed from when you were first diagnosed, your first surgery, and then when you sat down with the kids?
I found out in January, the end of January, and then I had the first surgery in March, early March, and then I ended up telling them or having the conversations in probably September, early September.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm. And some might think that that's not fair to them, but I didn't want to scare them and not be able to tell them, well, this is what's going to happen, or this is what I'm going to do to fight this.
Mm-hmm.
And when, until that time, I actually really didn't have all the answers of what was going to happen. So at that point, I knew I was going to go through chemo and radiation, and then ultimately have a surgery.
Okay. And, it's funny you mentioned, what somebody else might think you're doing. I'm thankful that you said that, because guess what, everyone? Your story is your story. Deb's story is Deb's story. My story is my story. Shelley's story is her story. Nobody gets to judge that. Nobody gets to tell you how to do it. Everybody's going to do it in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard different stories. Like, we've had people that never told a soul, and we've gotten to sit down with them and say, can you tell me more about why you don't share this burden? And then the next thing they tell you is like, I don't want to tell my mom because my mom's already dying of something, and I don't think she needs to know this before she passes. So,
Mm-hmm.
the world's going to have their opinions, but truly it's your story and how you wanted to manage it. It worked for you. It worked for the way that you were navigating it yourself. This is the first time you've ever done this. Nobody does this. I mean, people do it multiple times, but this was your first time experiencing that. And you did it the best way you knew how with the situation you were given. I don't think there's anything wrong with how we all choose to do it. It's up to you. It's your story writing. So I think you've probably felt lucky knowing you had kind of a plan of attack. So that way, when you could tell your kids what was going on, you could have like all the details, all the information, and that probably eased their anxiety, I would imagine.
I believe that is what helped them, because it was a shock, but I had a plan of action.
Instead of them riding that roller coaster that you had just been on, they didn't necessarily need to go through that part of things. And so you told them when you felt it was the best time.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's your story.
No, I agree. Everyone's journey is unique, and cancer diagnosis doesn't come with an emotional manual, I should say, or a roadmap, because everyone's situation is so unique, and family situation and support system, and everyone has to do what's right and best for them. And sometimes it's what's right for them in the moment, and later on it might not be, and it could change, like you're saying. First, you didn't share with your children, then you felt like it was time. You needed to do that. And you are sitting here with us today. It's such a rock.
Something that I probably heard from a number of people. I've never thought that, though. I went directly to, okay, we're walking through this together, Jesus and me. And I'm not blaming that, because it happened to me, and this is going to bring me through to know more about my faith and just be stronger in that. It almost brought me closer. I mean, I was very close. I mean, I do go to church regularly, and but I don't know what I would have done without it. And I'm so thankful for that.
I hear a lot of people say that. That if it wasn't for their faith, and that their faith, it was that listening to that still small voice that directed their path. And that is something that I think we could really do a much better job of in our healthcare system, is a better marriage between honoring people's spirituality or their journeys and medicine. Because I think too often those paths are very exclusive of each other, rather than inclusive.
Yeah, and it doesn't even matter what your belief is because everybody's belief system might be very different. It's just getting a chance to identify that with those folks. I know that we, in our experiences of being in the health system, we do spend a lot of time treating the body, which is what we need to do at that time. But there's such a piece of a spiritual thing that happens to different people that sometimes when we're in there and we're giving treatments, we're doing the chemo, we're doing the surgeries, we're doing the radiations, how often do we get a chance to really have like a really good talk with somebody about where they are with their spirituality or, that kind of thing that kind of ends up going to the wayside, but yet there's people that sit here with a smile after your experience. And that's part of what brought you through your
absolutely.
whole entire adventure. So
Would you say that cancer taught you anything or that you changed in any way since your cancer diagnosis?
That's a great question. I'm not, I think I'm a strong person. And so I knew I was going to get through it. Faith, death, definitely, it made me believe more that, that is the only thing really. If you don't have that, I'm not sure how you get through anything. So I'm so thankful for that. Somebody asked me if what the experience taught me, and I'm like, it's just something that you have to persevere. You have to just keep going. I never stopped working. Thankfully, I reacted well to the chemo and the radiation. So I was very fortunate to keep my life as it was. I walk every morning with my neighbor. I still did that. And so I was very fortunate I didn't have side effects and stuff. So, with all of that, and again, the spirituality and my family, it was a journey, but we made it through.
I think keeping that normalcy was super helpful. If you had all that, because there are folks that sometimes have some pretty extreme cases in their cancer journey that really make things tricky, is trying to find that normalcy, trying to keep, you kept activity going, which is huge. And there's oftentimes people who are like, well, I have cancer, I'm getting all these treatments, I'm tired, I'm not going to. But movement makes a big difference. Getting out there, getting out in nature, walking, getting that exercise, still connecting with your neighbors and family and friends is so important. So that kept you kind of feeling like, okay, I still have some sense of control over what is happening here because I can still go for my walks. I can still go to work. And you must have loved what you were doing because, that helps to get out with your coworkers or however your job goes.
It was good. And I think that too, obviously the treatments and faith and stuff, but the normalcy of the whole, it didn't make me feel like I was singled out because I had a disease or, or something, it just, I felt like I was just going through something and I could still live my normal life or as much as possible.
Sure. And it seems like the people around you didn't seem to miss a beat. They were there. And
Yep. I had great support. My coworkers, and I work in a small office. So they were great. My family here, and I'm not from here originally, but my parents and my brothers, and everybody was great.
That makes a big difference too. That leads me to the times that we've seen folks that don't have a system in place, whether they moved away from family, maybe they were the single child, or there's so many instances where this is the support system, which you have said has been a huge part of it. You imagine the folks that don't have that, they do need that extra layer of hugs and supports because they maybe don't have family, friends, neighbors because they're new to the area, and all of a sudden cancer comes out and they're like, whoa, here I am all by myself. And so it's a reminder that you're never by yourself when you do have faith, or you do have, ways nowadays, thank God we have technology, people that can get on the phone and see their loved ones by a video that makes a difference on, don't forget that you can see your family's smiles and try to share that with your loved one while they're going through cancer. Don't look at them like sadness. Look at them like, okay, we're going to keep going. We're going to do what we got to do. And your family and friends picked you up and kept you going, and you kept going too along with them. That's pretty great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Are there any resources that you had that you thought were particularly helpful, and any that you didn't have that you think, well, it would have been nice to have that?
Yeah, I had a lot of resources through my doctors. They provided a lot of information. I did have one doctor that told me not to go online, and I appreciated that because I'm not one to want to find out. I kind of just listened to what they said, and somebody else might be all different and look, what the diagnosis means and stuff. But he did tell me, he's like, don't go online and read into it. Just let's. And I appreciated that, but I'm not saying somebody shouldn't do that. You have to do, again, like you said, it's your journey. You have to do what's best for you. Again, I think the Rock County Coalition, Cancer Coalition, was wonderful. So there are so many resources out there. I didn't have to go to them as much. I mean, maybe because I did have such a great support system at home and at work. But I do know that there are a lot of resources out there. I have a sister-in-law that has breast cancer, and not in town here, but subsequently, this is recent, I'm like, you just got to go online. There's so much help out there. So I do believe that there's so much that people can go to.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a matter of overwhelm too. There's some people that they feel like that's the one thing they can control, and there's other people that might just shut down and go, I know that there's stuff out there, but I just can't hardly get past where I'm at. And that's, I guess that's where we came into play, as we thought, there's some people that have the support systems where the family or friends saying, hey, I found this resource, let's look into it, I'll fill out the paperwork for you, or so on and so forth. And so sometimes that's just where, people kind of get a little bit paralyzed because there is sometimes so much that they don't even know where to start. So luckily you had some resources that were given to you from where you were getting treatment. That happens on occasion. There's other times where people kind of slip through the cracks where they maybe don't get enough. But also sometimes get overwhelmed by, there is so much out there that now what do I do?
Yeah. And that's a good point, Shelley. I think it was an eye-opener for me when I learned that not every healthcare system has such a team in place and are able to help people navigate. In particular, I thought every cancer center had a social worker or a nurse navigator, and that's not the case. So it's nice when you have that team around you that can point out resources or kind of see where you're at, talk to you, and then be able to fill in the gaps, offer that information. Unfortunately, not everybody has that. So we want to make sure that, our audience knows too, that if you are on a cancer journey and you happen to be in a healthcare system where you haven't seen anyone to help you navigate that journey, or you haven't talked to a social worker who's able to provide resources for you, that you reach out to us and we will be happy. Sparkling Survivor and Breathe Inc. Shelley, how can they contact you?
Well, you can get a hold of us any way, shape, or form. You could probably drive a Mack truck and get a hold of me anytime. Apparently, I got, that. So, no, you can always go to either one of our websites, www.sparklingsurvivorllc.com, which has all contact information, email, phone number. That phone number can be texted. And then if you get a hold of Michelle, you get a hold of me. So one way, shape, or form, go ahead and give them your
Yeah, so Breathe is www.breatheinc.org. breatheinc.org.
Yeah, because you know what? You might just need to grab us and we can help you navigate some of that, find information if you're not getting what you need. Because sometimes there's goods and bads everywhere. So if you don't feel like you're getting quite all the needs that you need, or you just don't know how to navigate what questions ask the doctor, what do I ask when I go in to see them? Those types of questions are something that we can help set you up with, so you feel like you have some sense of control, and it seems like that helps us if we have something that we can kind of hang on to and control during it. If we go in with information, knowledge is power. And we all like to have that when we go into a cancer journey for sure. So that's kind of all it. Just don't go into Mack trucks. I was just joking about that, people. Thank you for joining us. Deb, thank you for sharing your story. I think that you have a good mindset. Mindset is everything when it comes to a cancer journey. Don't let it get into your mind and heart, because boy, oh boy, cancer can get in there and mess with people. You got to feel the feels, but you also got to just say enough's enough. We're going to do what we got to do. And you seem to do that quite well. So good job for that. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on Wine with Shelley
and Shelley.
We appreciate your support and listening to our amazing guest stories. This podcast is brought to you by
an oncology survivor nurse
and an oncology social worker.
We both own organizations led by women who are making a real difference in the lives of cancer patients and their families. Breathe Incorporated and Sparkling Survivor LLC.
Remember, there are many ways to get involved and support the fight against cancer. You can donate to our organization, volunteer your time, or simply spread awareness about us.
And if you're interested in being a guest on our podcast to share your cancer journey, a caregiver story, or even your business's supportive services, please reach out.
We'll be back soon with another inspiring episode. In the meantime, be sure to check out our websites and follow us on social media.
And remember, together,
we can breathe
and become sparkling survivors.